How do you protect yourself from the New World Order and their weapons of mass destruction, their directed energy weapons, the Havana Syndrome and the like? Millions of people are being victimized by this death grid, and millions more have been killed. Chances are you'll be confronted with an EMF holocaust, weapons that you can't even understand, like nuclear weapons, but on a microwave scale. The planet is surrounded with a death grid thanks to Elon and the like, and the entire planet is being held hostage by Silicon Valley and the beast system as we speak. Until you experience these weapons for yourselves, you're totally oblivious to the threat that's out there. But basically everything has been weaponized. The cell towers, the street lamps, the cars, the airplanes. You don't even stand a chance. And tinfoil is not going to save you from these military grade weapons. We've been doing a lot of research on this, given the fact that we've been victimized by these electronic weapons, these cyber weapons, and many other people have been as well. It's embarrassing to talk about it because most people don't even know how a radio works, and they have no idea how directed energy weapons work and what can be done to protect yourselves from these types of assaults. And essentially most people, when they get attacked, they're running for the aluminum foil, trying to protect themselves the best they can. But time quickly runs out, and these weapons can kill you in seconds, minutes, or days, depending on how bad they want you and how much time they have to set up shop around you. And so most shielding strategies don't work when it comes to these types of weapons. And we've seen the videos of people being stalked by some type of mysterious technology, and they spin around and die. People are getting zapped by their cell phones, zapped by cell towers, zapped by cars, smart meters, routers. Basically a mesh network of death connected to Silicon Valley. And the videos are not only disturbing, but they speak for themselves. This is definitely happening. It's not just in Havana. It's not just some kind of syndrome. This is a targeted assassination program that runs through technology. And all of you are at risk of being abused, victimized, and even killed by this weapon system. And so we have a lot of intelligence to share when it comes to what this weapon system is and what it can do. But it is a hybrid automated weapon system that uses both microwave technology and particle beam technology, or scalar weapon technology, the kind of stuff they have at CERN, if you will. Protons, neutrons, electrons, photons, and the ripple effects, which are electromagnetic waves for the most part. The attacks are broad in spectrum, from anywhere between 8 hertz to the many gigahertz. And all of these frequencies basically have advantages and disadvantages, but they can get around standard shielding. What we've discovered is that a hybrid shielding strategy for both EMF and particles, high-speed particles, is the best route. And you don't have to look like an astronaut in order to survive, but you may want to get some heavy-duty astronaut gear ready for an EMF bomb scenario where they wipe out a city or a continent with microwaves. And it can happen, and it can happen from underground, above ground, and every other direction. And so you really need to think about protecting your home and yourself. And they can hit you at the store, they can hit you in the car, they can hit you at work, they can make your life a living hell, targeting you wherever you go. And unless you have protection, you won't last but a few seconds or a few minutes out there if they're really after you. These weapons are highly efficient and effective. They're surgical in nature, and they can take you out, assassinate you in seconds. And when it happens to you, you just feel yourself letting go. And if you didn't know you're being attacked at that location, you'd think you're having a heart attack or a stroke, and you would just drop and wait for the ambulance. This has happened to me on several occasions. And without armor, I had to run out the store. I never would have survived. It's dangerous being a journalist these days, and the intelligence that we've gathered is second to none. What we can say for sure is that walking around in the world of today without EMF protection is a serious risk to yourself and to anyone that depends on you. With that being said, what kind of protection can you wear that doesn't look like you're retarded? Obviously, if you show up somewhere with a tinfoil hat, people are going to ask questions. So the main strategy here is Under Armour, or armor that you can conceal, that's lightweight and that doesn't make you, look like there's something wrong. And the solutions are difficult, and many people will try and make clothing out of EMF fabric or aluminum foil or something like that, and it can work for a cell phone, but it's not going to work for this assassination program. It's not enough. And the more you try to conceal, the worse it gets, because it's heavy and you just can't get with it. What we've discovered through a lot of intensive research is a nice combination of lightweight materials that is highly effective against particle beam weapons and broad spectrum EMF. And this is something that everybody needs to know in case of an emergency. And in fact, it is an emergency when you look at all of these cell towers around you. They're weaponized, and you're naked on this battlefield during an extermination. And so the first ingredient, the main ingredient that you probably never heard about, that is absolutely essential, is high density polyethylene. We talk about it. It's used in research facilities for shielding for particle beam projectors. And essentially, finding it is an interesting topic. How do you repurpose something in like polyethylene into shielding? And you can find it in all sorts of, solids, we can say. But the root barrier, HDPE, we find works best. It's easy to order, it's easy to get, it's easy to cut out in shapes, but it comes in rolls and it's difficult to flatten out. So it has a look of, just thick plastic. Almost kind of looks like fiberglass, but whatever. It's a lightweight, resistant, heavy-duty composite, and it's basically rated as the best high-speed particle shielding. Because when high-speed particles come in, they basically crash into shielding and cause a domino effect. And you get this shotgun blast of high-speed particles coming through your shielding. And so high density polyethylene is something that you want to look at to make like flak jacket plates, or any type of shielding that you want. You could probably make a Batman kind of thing with this material, but we really want to focus on the high density polyethylene because of how it's rated in nuclear laboratories. We also then cake it with graphite. So like the pencil lead in powdered form, use a spatula, cut it out, use tape to cut out your straight lines, make flak jacket plates or whatever you'd like. And then take it to a place where you can kind of get dirty, because powdered graphite essentially is the nastiest kind of powder you can find. It just smears everywhere. It's used in nuclear reactors to slow down nuclear reactions, to slow down the high-speed particles. And so you can cake polyethylene and graphite and give yourself some extra protection. Of course, this is a nasty little thing you got there, because if anything touches it, it's just going to be a disaster. So you have to use gloves, and you have to basically put it in a place where nobody's gonna mess with it. We typically do this on a picnic table and then just kind of rinse it off. You don't really want to do this at home. We then add a mix of iron powder with epoxy, and we make ourselves basically iron ball paint. I'm not sure where the epoxy picture went, but maybe it's this one. No. Video guy's on vacation. We're not gonna find it. It's just totally gone. But you use the epoxy to mix in the iron powder, and then you cake it on top of one side of the flattened out polyethylene that's been cut out and treated with graphite. And what you have there is basically triple protection against high-speed particles and EMF. It is super lightweight, and when it dries, it's flexible, and it's in the shape that you want. You're going to want to tape that up carefully once it dries. That way it seals in all of the nastiness, if you will. And then you assemble it like, furniture, if you will, into Batman-like armor. And it probably won't look as sexy as Batman, but it's highly effective. It's the most effective thing that I've put together so far. And it's almost standalone, 100% protection. You may need other forms of shielding to augment heavy fire, but to augment protection under heavy fire. But otherwise, this mix of polyethylene, graphite, and iron powder is an excellent find. What we would add to that is an outer skin. There's the epoxy mix. So it's all pretty nasty. It's definitely like manufacturing. Anyways, we would add an outer skin of something conductive, like aluminum or copper or tin or something, and add resistors to it as much as you can, capacitors, whatever you can, to basically mess with the voltage load, because armor becomes saturated. All armor gets saturated with electrons, and so it's kind of like a sponge in that sense, and once it fills up, it starts to leak and it just spills all over. And so you have to get rid of the electron load in your shielding, but in armor it's kind of difficult. I mean, you don't want it plugged into the wall socket. And so basically adding an outer skin with resistors, and you can tape that up real nice, gives you super lightweight, highly resistant armor that can take on some of the most formidable military grade weapons that are out there. You're looking at most of the high density polyethylene that we're talking about here usually comes in about a 5-foot roll or so, and see if we can find that again. It's sold as root barrier, but it's usually super high density polyethylene, as high density as you can. You'll find the cheap stuff which has less polyethylene in the mix. You want to get it as pure as you can, and usually it's around 25 or 30 bucks for about 5 feet. That's about as economical as you can find. It's about 1 millimeter thick, super tough to unroll and straighten out. Big time pain. That's why the picnic table is nice too, because you can straighten that thing out on the picnic table, kind of slide it in the grooves and roll it the opposite direction, stretch it out. Cut it out, cake it with graphite using a spatula, then make yourself an epoxy mix. And so we kind of want to talk about the ingredients here. Basically, you're looking at, with a 5-foot roll of HDPE, you can make yourself about kind of like 8 or 9 tiles of flak jacket material that you can, glue together or tape together or, weave together, if you will, to make armor, body armor, or plates for wherever. And so you're looking about 25, 30 bucks for about 8 plates. The graphite powder, a bottle of that stuff used for hand drawing and the like is, that'll last you quite a while. You're gonna have to get iron powder, which you can get at a reasonable price online, and the bottle of that will, the typical bottle will last you quite a bit, but you'll use about 250 grams per 4 plates or so, and it makes a nice iron ball paint effect which eats up the radar and the EMF, and so it has to look a little grainy, and you mix it in with the epoxy in about a 1:1 ratio, resin, hardener, and ferrite or iron powder. And you can play with the mixtures, make it thicker and the like. And then we dust it with iron powder like sprinkles on ice cream. But you could probably find a better way. And you just basically want to dust it so that you have like these nice little black iron balls all over it. microscopic little iron balls all over the surface, and that's basically stealth fighter technology. And it just eats up the radar, like a reverse Doppler kind of effect or something. And then, the outer skin, basically, you want to get resistors online. They're pretty cheap, and you just want to get like, the maximum ohms, half a watt, 1 watt, whatever you can find, the thing that eats up the most, and just start copper taping that to wherever you can. And do that to all of your shielding as well. Ground and add resistors to everything. And that'll just, up the resistance of that armor before it saturates and pierces through. And, it's going to take quite an energy blast to get through all the resistors. And they're all lightweight, cheap. And, essentially a nice flak jacket will probably run you about $30 or $40 to make, maybe a little bit more, $50. But it'll be the best thing that's out there by far. And it weighs maybe like 2 or 3 pounds. It's a lot better than all of the other things that I've discovered. And it's, easy to augment with other shielding materials. So we definitely recommend people start making that quickly, because you're going to need it. You're going to need like a safe room, like a bunker, an EMF bunker in your house or your place. And in case things get hot, or make yourself a hot box, like a little panic box, if you will, in case things get hot, because you never know, they can get hot. And they love to attack people while they sleep. And so having a safe place to sleep and live these days is a luxury. But most people don't know that, as they play with their cell phones. But all of this radiation is super dangerous, and, the numbers, the cancer numbers, the heart attacks, the strokes, and all of that are most likely related to this death grid more than anything else. At first came the 5G, then came the COVID. This is the biggest threat to free people out there by far. We've been blasted by these energy weapons, for like 2 years now. It's basically wherever you go, and they can hit you from CCTV cameras, street lamps, the smart street lamps, LEDs, the new cars with the black boxes, airplanes, hot air balloons, satellites, the neighbors' routers, the neighbors' smart meters, the neighbors' phones. People are totally unaware their gadgets have been hijacked and are repurposed for this program. And when this thing hits you, you don't have much time. So it's better to have this shielding and not need it than need it and not have it. If you've got the time and the opportunity to accumulate shielding supplies, it's highly recommended. And there are definitely nuclear style EMF weapons out there that can wipe out an entire city in a blast and leave everything intact. It's the perfect weapon. And these attacks can come from underground, so people are just totally unprepared for what's out there. The more people that are aware, the better. Share this far and wide. Till the next time, if you're listening to this, you are the resistance.